My name is Tristan Merriam and I am a brand ambassador for Annie Sloan, and I'm here today in Oxford in Annie's warehouse and factory to talk to her all about colour. So next year marks the 35th anniversary of chalk paint, which is an incredible achievement. And to kickstart those celebrations, we're going to be speaking all about colour and going right back to the beginning of where chalk paint started and why colour was always so important right from day one. So, thank you for having me, Annie. I'd like to know, and I think everyone else would like to know, how it all began, because I find it really, really fascinating looking back at those early colours and why you chose those colours, but how did they come about?
Well, I found a factory who was willing to make them. That was the main thing, and it happened to be in Belgium, because that just happened to be the place. So I was making paint in Belgium, or I found the place. But before that, I had to work out what colours I wanted. And I decided first, was not much money around then, how many colours I'd have. So we had 12 colours to begin with. I was looking, and why I wanted to make my own paint, not only was it about the texture and all the rest of it, it was also about the colour. Because what I wanted to do was make colours that were in response to painted furniture. So I started out with 12 colours, and I only gave them numbers to begin with.
Amazing.
So it seemed a silly thing, but at the time I was really rethinking the whole paint thing. And one of the things I hated was that I was using paint from, normal house paint names. And they'd be names like, I don't know, Seafoam was always the one that, I don't know why, but it really annoyed me because I thought, what the hell is that? Doesn't mean anything. So I just decided I'd do numbers, and then I did numbers and a sort of colour description. So number one was what is now called old white.
I'm going to test you on this because I've actually got an old document. Yeah, so go for it.
So number one is old white.
Yes.
And that was called umbered white then.
Correct.
Because umber was it's a brown pigment. Because I mean, my whole thing was pigments and art school training and all the rest of it. I'd used colours. So raw umber was a favourite colour. Everybody needs raw umber. So I decided what I would have was a white which was knocked back, very sort of art term, knocked back. So instead of it being bright and white, it was knocked back with umber, raw umber. So it was umbered white, which I now think is actually a beautiful name.
Yes.
Why didn't I keep it? But anyway, I went with old white. Yeah. Number two was Chateau Grey. Now, Chateau Grey was actually inspired by French chateaux, because in French chateaux there's always that sort of odd grey or greeny or just a non-colour. It's sort of a neutral. I know I've called it a grey and it's quite green, but it's also inspired by a colour called drab, which later on another very famous company took on. But that name, drab,
it's got very negative connotations, doesn't it?
So I didn't call it drab.
No.
I didn't call it drab because I thought that's so awful, a bit drab.
Yeah.
So I decided to call it Chateau Grey because it's a bit grander and more beautiful. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful colour. And it was the colour that these estates would make when they mixed everything. So they would make the paint themselves. So you didn't go to the shop and buy tins of paint. You made it yourself, your local man, with pigments. And every job, there would always be paint left over. So what they did was pour it all in together, mix it up, and it was just the sort of estate drab. And everything would be painted.
That colour, the leftovers.
Yeah, from the stables to the kitchen, probably, to the laundry, to the sheds and all the rest of it. So, but it's beautiful. So that was my number two. Number three is a favourite colour. So, one of the things that I was very influenced by was this sort of book. I used to look. This is called The Swedish Room. I don't know what year this is, but it would be very early. And if it wasn't this book, it'd be in other ones. And it's about Swedish painted rooms, which I think are really beautiful. And let me see if I can find something. So there were lots of colours in there, and one of the colours would be, well, get the old whites, but also the blues. I mean, I've just opened it at random, and actually that's quite a good, there's this blue along there, there's this blue along there, and well, there's all sorts of things. There's these blues here. And I made a sort of decision not, and there was also a very favourite colour in England. Lots of furniture was painted in, and it was duck egg blue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sort of greenish blue. It's quite neutral in a way, and it goes with everything. It's not too pretty. What did I call it there?
It's called pale grade blue.
Pale grade blue. There we are.
We've summed it up. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
But later to be duck egg.
Later to be duck egg, because people kept saying, "Have you got a duck egg?"
Yeah.
And I'd say, "Yes." It's called pale grade blue.
Yeah.
And actually, people get addicted to these names because it's actually very romantic, isn't it? That name.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then so they went through from number 3 as we're on now up to, well, there were 12 in total.
There were 12, but
They're not in order.
You've noticed something.
Yes, there's missing numbers,
Yeah.
basically.
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 was Aubusson.
Yes.
5 was Burgundy. Sorry, I forgot the name. What did I call it?
It was called dark blued red.
Dark blued red.
Which is
Well,
interesting.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
It is. See, it's a dark colour and it's blued and it's red. So that's where it sits on the colour circle or triangle, as I do. Now, there isn't a number 6. The reason for that is I had the numbers. I was going to put the numbers on the top of my tins, and a 6 can be a 9.
Ah, okay, interesting.
And so we decided not to have a 6. 7s, I was making them in Europe at that time, in Belgium, as I say, and 7s and 1s are very similar. So I decided not to have a 7.
No.
Number 8 is a very umbered colour.
White and umber?
White and umber. So it's the opposite of umbered white.
Yeah.
And it's what we now call country grey.
Okay, interesting.
And it was already a mix of green and red with white, so that it made this sort of middle colour that would go everything, because I was already working with the idea of complementaries.
Yeah.
So that's number 8. Now, the next one was, there was no 10. Then there's 11, which now doesn't exist, sadly.
No. Yellow ochre.
Yellow ochre. It's a really lovely colour, and it's the only one with a traditional pigment name or whatever. And it became very, very unpopular. Just no one was using it, so I got rid of it. And then later people wanted it again, and so I brought out what is called not Tilton. What's my other one? Arles. And Arles is about those ochres from the south of France, because that's so it's a sort of reflection of that. So 11. I don't know why there wasn't a 12.
No, that doesn't look upside down in any way.
No, I don't know why I didn't do a 12. That's interesting.
Skips to 14.
So 14 was olive, and it just needed that. There was the grade number 2, Chateau Grey. I wanted something really quite strong, so I made olive, and then another one was what did I call it?
Well, the next
warm
brown.
Yeah, warm brown, which I brought back. That disappeared, completely disappeared. Nobody bought it, and then suddenly everybody wanted a dark brown. So I brought back a colour which I now call Honfleur, after Normandy, which I'll talk about those.
Yes. And then dark green and dark red oxide were the final 2.
So Amsterdam is the number 18. Was it number 18?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Number 18 is Amsterdam, and number 20 is Primer Red. And Amsterdam again was around, and then I got rid of it because no one was using it, and it was back again. Primer Red, it's come and gone. We were actually talking about this earlier, weren't we? That Primer Red is something that at that time when I first brought it out was so popular, and then I was really thinking, oh, perhaps I should get rid of it. Nobody wants this dirty colour, this browny, reddy colour. And then suddenly, now everybody's using primer red, and they're being, oh, I love primer red, it's so amazing.
It's a fantastic colour. It's very grounds things, I think.
Very grounded. Yeah.
So that is all 12,
Yeah.
and they were part of what was then known as the traditional range.
Yeah.
So they were the first colours to come out.
Yeah.
And then came another selection, another range, which was then called the Impressionist range. So talk to us about the difference between the traditionals and the Impressionists.
So I was missing some bright colours. I am inspired by two lots of periods of art history. One is the 18th century. I studied it at one point, just at A level, so, when I was about 17, 18, and I found it really, really inspiring because it is the beginning of modern art, the 19th century, the 18th century. It's the Age of Enlightenment. There was a lot of technical and scientific advances being made. So it's when they first made blue. I didn't talk about Aubusson, but Aubusson was only possible in the 18th century because they found this colour, a new pigment. And so because of that, the whole 18th century suddenly becomes just very interesting, both art and science, and I love the interplay of art and science. I think that's so exciting. So you've got all of that, but another period of is another time again of technical advances. There were a few technical advances in the Victorian times, but not so much. It's more as a result of the 18th century. But beginning of the 20th century is all the colours, new colours, so bright reds, bright blues, all those bright colours, so a bright yellow, none of those, they've been a bit available, but some of them actually were, like the yellow, but anyway.
Orange.
The orange, all of those colours. If you look at the Impressionists, one of the reasons the Impressionists could do what they did was not just because they suddenly discovered colour, using colour. Those colours were suddenly available. I mean, I find that extremely.
Isn't that amazing? Can you imagine the day when they introduce new colours for an artist to be given a new colour to play with?
It's
it opens
incredible.
up a whole fresh outlook.
Yeah. So there's a colour called cerulean blue, and of course also these colours would have been cheaper at a certain point. So some things were available earlier, but they would have been very, very expensive. Artists couldn't have used them.
No.
And it wasn't until the beginning of the 20th century that you could suddenly use these bright colours.
Yeah, and that's interesting in terms of price, because in this magazine, what is it?
Relics, catalogue.
Catalogue.
Yes.
Which highlights Annie Sloan decorative paints.
Yeah.
The traditional range is cheaper than the Impressionist range.
Well, that's really interesting because that's what we did then, because we were like, oh my God, these are really expensive colours. The pigments are much more expensive, and that's still the same today. But instead of having two price ranges, we merged them all together. So my husband always says, David always says, oh gosh, I hope nobody decides to paint everything bright red because we would go broke.
And it's the pigments that are in the old Impressionist range are still the most expensive.
Yes, with a few
exceptions.
With a few exceptions, like graphite.
Yeah.
Black is a very
black,
cheap.
I was going to say.
Yeah, cheap. That's a cheap thing. But anything with a bright colour, so the oranges, the bright pinks, the reds, bright yellows, are really expensive.
So people are getting very good value for their money when they buy those colours.
They are, really, they are. It's very.
That's interesting, though.
Now you mentioned Relics, and they were the first shop that sold my paint, and they are now stockists as well, but and they're local to me, and they were the first shop that really started selling my paints in England.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing.
So there were 24 colours.
24 colours
in total in the beginning.
Yeah.
And when did you decide to move away from numbers and a kind of a brief description of the colour and move towards a name such as Old White?
Yes, I can't really remember exactly when. I just remember people going, "Why do you call them? It's just, I can't remember these numbers.
No.
And I suppose they're right. You can't remember a number very easily, you know. So I did reluctantly. And I thought, well, if I am going to use colours, names, I'm going to use colours that have some sort of meaning. They haven't all got meanings. I didn't always give, and I should have done, and I regret that. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So I've got, I've tried to make them meaningful. So Amsterdam green is because that colour is all over Amsterdam. You've recently been to Amsterdam.
I saw it for myself. Amsterdam green everywhere.
It's amazing,
and
isn't
it's
it?
the exact green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Theirs is sometimes a bit darker, but I thought, well, that's okay. I mean, I try to make my colours so that, I do make my colours brighter, either brighter, so that, because you can't make, if I made a normal pink, you can't make that brighter. So I go for a bright pink, which you can then lighten. And I make it a bright pink, but not too dark, so then you can darken it.
So how would you lighten them for people that might not?
Okay.
Yeah.
You add white.
Yeah.
And so different white, but mainly you'd add old white or pure. And to darken, there's two ways. One is to add the complementary, but that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other interview.
That's a whole other interview.
Yeah.
You could add black, which I'm not into, but you can. And the other thing is to put dark waxes, black waxes on it to give it that. And again, if it isn't, say the bright red, if you put bright red on and you put a dark wax on it, the bright red is strong enough, that's Emperor's Silk, for the colour to come through, to give it some sort of gorgeousness.
I think that's what makes, one of the things that makes chalk paint so special, because it's all very, very considered.
Yeah.
And it is not plucking a colour, giving it a random name.
Yeah.
Everything from the whole essence of that colour has come from knowledge.
Yeah.
And you've thought of everything, which I think is probably part of the reason why it's lasted so well and grown over 35 years. You talk about a colour box idea. So the colours being a colour box. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, a colour box. What I wanted when I first made my colours was that I was giving people the ability to mix the colours, because I think that's one of the joys and the important thing. Because I've known, and you may know too, you paint something and you paint it and you think, oh, that looks gorgeous on that in that room. You move it and put it in another room, and suddenly, oh, the magic's gone. And so it is about colour, the brightness, the wall it's next to, and you could then change it and make it your colour. Or you choose a colour in a shop, you get home and you go, oh, it's too bright or it's too pale. I want to give people the ability to mix. So, and I remember when I first went to art school, I was told to go out and buy a range, or go and buy my colours. Well, I mean, obviously you don't have a lot of money when you first go to art school, and you also don't have much idea. So it was given that, I suppose I must have known a little bit. So I went, anyway, whatever. So you buy a white, you do buy a black, because black, I don't want to make it sound like I use black, of course. You buy some earthy colours, so you buy your umber, you buy your ochre, and you buy your sienna. And now that would be the sienna, red sienna or red ochre would be primer red. So they're all like artist colours. You'd buy a bright red, that'd be cadmium red. You'd buy a cerulean, which is now Givany. You'd buy, what else would you buy? Azillaran crimson, which was a deep red, which is burgundy. So all of these colours were colours that I was buying as my colour box as an art student, and those colours would be all the colours I would need to mix. And there's about 12 of them actually. There would be about 12. Because greens were quite difficult. You'd have a yellow, but you know, you need, I mean, that's a whole
so many
thing.
different greens.
So many different greens. So you'd have a more of a lemony yellow, a cadmium yellow, and you say you'd be choosing. So I'd often buy a green, so that you had a green, and a viridian green would be your sort of what I now call Florence. So that's that very blue green. Anyway, so all of those, and you knew that would mix up. So that's when I brought out my second range that filled some of those gaps: the bright red, the viridian green, or Florence.
So you're kind of giving people permission to say these are the colours, but you have hundreds, endless possibilities of making your own shades, changing them slightly, creating entirely new creations, and that's part of the fun, I think. It is to get people motivated and inspired to do that
exactly themselves. So yes, I brought out all these colours that you can more or less mix everything, but then of course over time, well, you can maybe you get to that.
No, exactly. I think yes, it's opening up a whole. It's trying to convey it to people, isn't it? That this is what they're designed for. You can just buy it off the shelf, and of course they're beautiful colours in their own right, but you've got to tweak it.
You can. You don't have to. Yeah, like you say, lots of people buy the colour. Like Capability Green is my new favourite colour. I love it, and that is beautiful, and it goes on, and you just go, that is perfect. Don't want to do anything to it. Actually, same with all of them. They're all good colours. But if you just did say, oh, Capability Green, you're a little bit bright in this room, you could knock it back.
North facing, south facing, what colour it's up against as a background.
Exactly.
And it might just need a slight shift.
Exactly.
To make it right for the space.
Exactly. So all of that allows you to play about with it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I find it very exciting.
So we're up to nearly 35 years, and there are currently 46 colours.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
I think it's 46. So over time, why do colours drop off, and why do we introduce new colours?
Well, I'm always sad to say goodbye to a colour, but there seems to be a time, and there are fashions. So at one point, it was a big desire. There was lots of pinks wanted, and these sort of purpley colours. So I had Henrietta, which was very popular in certain parts of Europe.
I loved Henrietta, actually.
Henrietta was really popular, not so popular other places. I had Emile, which is beautiful. I've had Lem Lem. So those colours, and still people love them, but they were not selling.
No.
And I can see there's no point in having a colour out there just because a few people like it. And I could bring out another colour, and it is just to do with fashion. Like I said, some of those colours, those first colours disappeared for a while, but they came back. So we can always bring colours back, not a problem. So if there is a time when we need to bring Lem Lem back, for instance, or Henrietta, we can, not a problem. But it does give me a chance if I put them away, archive them, is what we say.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
And then everyone starts going, where's Henrietta gone?
Well, we did get rid of burgundy for
a
while. And then people said, burgundy, I use it all the time.
It was mutiny.
It wasn't almost a mutiny. So what had happened is that people are not buying it in large quantities because they're using it to mix. And that mixing meant that we weren't selling lots, but we were consistently selling. So now we've got our 500 mil, so it's really useful to have that as a 500 mil. People can buy it to mix with.
It's such a useful colour. And for me, one of my favourite colour mixes is burgundy and Capri, which gives you a raspberry. It's just somewhere in the middle of the two. And I don't think you could achieve that without the burgundy.
No, you can't. No,
I'm glad it came back.
Yeah, me too. I am too. So we bought burgundy back, and as I say, Honfleur has come back, Amsterdam, but it's given me a chance to bring other colours in that I really, really like. I like, well, I've already meant Capability, but also Frida and Paprika. They were our latest colours. And I've been aching to bring those in.
And why were you aching to bring those? How does it work? Do you think I really need this? This is missing from the range, or are you inspired by trends and fashions? I imagine not so much. It's more.
Well, I'm not really, but I think you are. You can't help
No,
me. If you live in the
you see it.
world, if you go out, you see everything. And it can be an advert, it can be something you see on a television drama or a film or a magazine. You don't know. It's all coming in. You can't say where it came from. But suddenly I just go, I need that colour. I need that colour. And sometimes I need an excuse because we can't bring out colours, you know, all the time. We have, one of the problems with our company is that we have a surfeit of ideas. We have too many ideas.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we can't, and also you would saturate the market.
You can't follow through with every idea.
Can't,
You've got to pick and choose,
Yeah.
haven't you? Yeah.
And so it's got to be like, okay, we're going to do some new colours. And so, yeah, Paprika came because we had a competition. But it'd been colour I'd wanted to do. So when the person who won the competition said, I want to make a paprika-y red, I was like, oh, hallelujah, yes.
Yeah, it could have gone very wrong, couldn't
Yeah,
it?
it could have been.
Someone could have created drab.
I know,
And that would have
exactly.
gone
No, thank
hideously
you.
wrong.
No. So we didn't want that. And then Frida Blue had been something that actually Daniel Cervantes, who comes originally from Mexico, had been saying for ages. And I've been going, yes, 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 I wanted to, but I don't know when and how. And I couldn't find a space for it or place for it. Anyway, we eventually did that. And Capability Green, I was aware that we didn't have this sort of very natural green. And actually we did something with a gardening company and I just thought, this is the time.
It works. And
Perfect.
you are the boss. So you have visions. I'm going to ask a leading question now. Is there a colour that you've ever wanted to introduce and gone on to introduce that has surprised maybe the team or that's done better than everyone thought, but you kind of stay true to your instincts with it?
Capri pink.
Oh yeah, that was a leading question, but it works. Yeah.
I think you knew the answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Capri pink. I said we're going to do it, and everyone's like, we're too busy, we can't do it. And I'm like, we really need to do this. And my marketing team drew me aside actually, Annie, I really don't think this will sell.
God.
I'm sorry, but just, you know, my point of view.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you very much. Well, I'm going to do it. And we made it. I can tell you, down in the factory, they had a lovely name for it. We didn't have a name for it yet. I couldn't work out the name. And they called it Barbie's Guts.
Oh, yes, I did know that. Yeah, that's, oh gosh. Okay, Capri's better. Capri's more classy, yeah, I think.
Well, Capri was about, for me, it's a very 50s colour.
Yeah.
And it is pretty Barbie in a way, but
Yes.
it's actually much nicer than a real Barbie.
It's got a lot more depth,
It's a
hasn't
lot
it?
more
In
depth,
many
yeah,
ways
yeah.
than Bobby.
Many ways. So it was about Capri, and Capri is an island of Italy, which is very, very big in the 50s. And, you know, all the sort of beautiful girls were going there with their little scarves around their neck on Lamborghinis, not Lamborghini, Lambrettas, scooters. And they'd all be wearing Capri pants. So I had this huge image of this is what it was about. And I could imagine in their little Capri pants, you know, they were short, they're long trousers, are short. And they'd be in Capri pink. And they'd be on their little scooter. And I just thought the whole thing works.
Yeah.
So we went for Capri.
And I love the story behind that name as well. That makes it so exciting.
Well, it's got modernity, but it's also got this lovely, the island of Capri. I think there was even a pop song called On the Island by Perry Como. That may be not true, but anyway, in my dreams. So all of that, so Capri was the one, and it's turned out to be, we got so much publicity about it. People, it's probably one of those colours that people either love or hate.
I can't imagine anyone hates Capri. On behalf of everyone everywhere, thank you for bringing out Capri, because it's one of my personal
Your favourites, yeah.
But I just feel every time I see it used, it's happy,
Yes.
it's rich, it's
Yes.
uplifting.
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's
if
a
you-
wonderful addition.
I mean, if you lived in a very cool house with lots of whites and greys, you may not want to use pink,
No,
that bright pink.
No.
But it does also, it mixes very well, as you said.
Mhm, it
And
does.
so we mixing it with the blues and all the rest of it to make beautiful, rich sort of eggplant aubergine colours, which is fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely, and whites to go towards the Barbie pinks.
Barbie
I
pinks,
think you
yeah,
can make a very strong Barbie pink with
Yes.
white and Capri.
Yeah.
So now, as we say, there are 46 colours, and they're here in front of us, and they are a colour box. They can be mixed.
Yeah.
There are black in some of the colours, the
Yes.
obvious ones.
Yes.
And that's to give the
Well, you've got, I mean,
strength.
well, it's really, I mean, obviously it's in graphite, it's in Athenian black, it's in Whistler grey. The one that you might be finding very surprising that it's in is Oxford Navy, because it is a blue, it's a dark blue. But for us to get the real strength of the navy we wanted, we had to put black in it. Now, I think it's fantastic that when you actually add some white into Oxford Navy, the blue isn't a pale blue or a softer blue. It's a grade blue. You can see the black in it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to avoid, because what I want you to do is put the white in the colour and you will just get a softer version of that, not one with grey in it. So very important.
Oh, absolutely, and this is just chalk paint. So now, in the beginning, the wall paints didn't exist. The satin paints didn't exist. It's actually only in recent years, really, that they have come in.
Let me put you right.
Okay.
So many years ago, gosh, I don't even, probably around the year 2000. So not that long ago, if you're my age. I decided I wanted to do a mid-sheen range. So mid-sheen was what is now our wall paint range. So mid-sheen meant it had a mid-sheen. It was for walls. I also called it architectural, architectural colours, architectural range. So they were sort of concrete colours. It was quite, around the 2000s, it was very, we were quite minimal. And going down to lots of natural materials, but natural man-made materials. So man-made concretes and stone, man-made stones and all of that. So I went for a lot of colours like that. But I also went for some bright colours. So I had a Hawaiian pink. And Hawaiian pink.
I did not know any of this.
Yes.
This is
Yes,
interesting.
Hawaiian pink was what is now a sort of Capri.
Yeah.
But I had lots of other
Have
colours.
you got, going off tangent a little bit, because I've just thought of this, have you got all of the old colour charts?
Unfortunately, we don't.
Wouldn't
which
that
is
be
really,
amazing
I
to
know.
have them up?
Actually, if anybody's got one
Yeah, that would
that
be
they
great.
don't want, we would love them.
Yes.
They were hand painted ones.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be somewhere,
Knocking
but we
about
have
somewhere.
not found them ourselves. At the time you go, oh, that's an old one. Oh, I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
And now I would love, because
Wouldn't
I
that
used
be
to
incredible?
hand paint them. I would just we'd have tables set up with all the sheets on and hand
then
paint
cut them
every
up and
colour.
Stick them on.
Well, that came later. Sometimes at the beginning, very beginning, we painted the card.
Amazing.
And then we realised, actually, paint a colour label and then stick it on.
Yes.
Anyway, I've been there, done
Well, that's why it's 35 years. You
Yeah.
constantly grow and adapt and make it better.
that. And I've
so
done
on.
the work. I mean,
Exactly. You've been painting the colour
it was me
swatches.
painting the colour cards, me getting the paint, taking it out, doing lifting it, taking it down to the, we had a basement where we kept all the paint. Oh God, don't remind me, it was awful.
So what do you think it is that people love about your colours? Because there are so many paints out there, but
Yeah.
yours are special. It's the longest
Yes.
running chalk paint, furniture paint
Well,
around.
I started.
Exactly.
There was nobody else who made chalk paint or made paint like that then. So, well, there were things like, there were milk paints.
Mhm.
There were loads of milk paints out there. So I can't say I was the only furniture paint,
Okay.
but they were all milk paints.
But
So-
certainly the only chalk
They're only my
paints.
paint.
That's where
Yeah,
it came from.
I started that. So,
And
so-
why do you think the colours are so, people love them so much? What is it that
I
makes
mean,
them special? I know. We've explored
I
lots of reasons.
I like to think it's because they do have proper roots. They're not just a pretty pink, a pretty blue, a pretty yellow, but they also mix together. They're harmonious, they work together. So those colours have a sort of history. Can't get it right. They do come, they've got roots down to their pigments. I don't know, I can see it all there, but for me, people who don't know, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't really know why it's, but I do think if you do have an understanding where things have come from, and you know, as a painter, as an artist, I know that certainly these colours are really useful. And I do know that other companies have copied my colours. They've just gone, oh, I like that, and they've done
to
it.
make our version of it.
Yeah. I can remember when I first had my colours, and I had a colour card with this Antibes green. And Antibes green was created from colours that I'd seen on painted furniture from Hungary and from Ireland. And I made this bright green, which you can then darken down with dark waxes or whatever. And people would go, I love the colours, but I'm not sure about the Antibes green.
Really? That was the one that caused a bit of a stir?
Yeah, but it's I think it's almost like my iconic colour.
I thought you were going to say favourite then.
I can't.
No,
well,
I avoided that question because you can't answer it, but you nearly did answer it.
I feel it's my signature. That's a better word.
I completely get it. Yeah.
Signature colour, because, well, I have it it's in a lot of photographs, and a lot of people have commented, and I think it's been very important to me. My bed in France, which is this beautiful big French bed, which I painted and put gold on it as well. And people look at that and I think they go, oh my goodness, that is incredible, because this bright, rather sort of slightly garish colour suddenly becomes, with gold as well, and on a beautiful French carved piece. I mean, it looks majestic, it looks a little bit opulent. But at the same time, a huge fun. I mean,
very eye-catching.
Very eye-catching, yeah. And so I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, no, I don't. But I think we've established that you sort of do have a favourite, even if you can't admit it out loud, but you sort of now have.
Well,
I think that's really nice to know.
When Capability Brown, named after Capability Brown, the gardener, when Capability Green came out, I was really upset for Antibes.
Oh, you felt sorry for him? Is it a her or a him? Let's not go there.
Gender neutral.
Let's not
gender
go there.
neutral. I thought I really love Capability. And no, I didn't want Antibes to be upset.
Oh no. Do you think he does, she does, it does?
Well, possibly.
I think there's room for both.
There is room for both. And I found in my house in France, I have this gorgeous colour on my bed, and downstairs I have a lot of Capability. And it's fine.
And
they
flows
work. They are in separate rooms. They are living harmoniously.
They can live under the same roof in harmony, which is really nice.
They're not shouting at each other. But I do love everything. I don't ever go, oh God, I wished I didn't have that. There are some colours which don't sell particularly well, but like we said, burgundy.
And you've got to have a balance. Surely, as a businesswoman, you've got to have a balance of what you need and what sells and the whole thing.
Yes,
it can't be purely money driven.
No.
Otherwise, the range might be very different. You've got to have the options there for people. To play on their own. Well, it's very exciting.
Yeah, and just one more thing I wanted to say about was that also people suddenly discover a colour, and I love that. So I'm on Instagram a lot, as you know, and people write to me and say, I just discovered whatever colour. I just love it. I can't stop using it. And that's, again, about having some good colours that, you know, you may have always been using you know, X, Y, and Z, and suddenly you discover, oh my God, Florence.
Yeah, and that, going back to it, that's sort of where the wall paint and the satin paint question came in, because I was assuming that when that came in recent years,
Right.
it opened up a whole other way of talking about the colours, because you see Capri up against an olive wall, and that makes you see Capri completely differently to how you might have up against a white wall, and so on. So having chalk paint, satin paint, wall paint as a one big collective now, you can really explore colour combinations in a very broad, exciting way.
Very
There's
true.
endless possibilities.
Endless possibilities.
That's what makes it so exciting.
And I love that I have this great connection with art, and I think that's really important for people to understand. And it's a whole journey for everybody, and I think colour is a journey, and it helps you understand art, which helps you understand art history, which helps you understand history, which helps you understand, I don't know, the whole social thing of life and how things have been and gone and why things have happened. And I mean, I just think it's very cool and very, very, and I'm very proud of that.
You so should be, absolutely. So we're coming up for 35 years. Are there, on the subject of colour, going to be any new colours coming for the 35th anniversary?
There might be.
Not that you can tell us what they are, but I think that's a yes. I think that's
there
a yes.
is, yes. 35 years, very big number for us, very important. And so what we are going to do is make it the year of colour, of course. So it's the year of colour.
Amazing.
And there's all sorts of surprises, I think.
It's
some
going to
really,
be amazing.
really good colours
Wow.
coming out. Some stuff that I can't wait. I'm terrible at keeping secrets.
Yes, okay, I'll stop you before you just reveal too much. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
nearly 35 years. We're
Thank
nearly, I
you.
can't say it quite yet, but as I'm here I will, because it is amazing.
Well, it would have been because I started doing it in 1989 and then brought it out in 1990.
Well, there we go then. I can say it. We can say it. But thank you. It's just amazing, and it's so wonderful to see it affecting so many people around the world.
Yeah,
not just the UK. It's just everywhere. So yes, it's been wonderful. We need to do more of these.
Yes.
Colour's just the first one. But there's so much more to explore.
There is lots and lots and lots.
And we'll hopefully do it again and see you next time. So
and I just need to say thank you to Tristan for giving me such lovely questions. Thank you.